I want to talk to you about the last essay for this semester. I know that's exciting. If you're listening to this, I am going to assume that you have been plugging away in this class, turning in your work, trying to get through it. And I know it hasn't been easy. And I really appreciate those of you who have showed the persistence and dedication to push through under these difficult circumstances. It shows a lot of character, and I really do appreciate it. So let me walk you through this last essay. I thought it would be easier to do this on a video than in an email. So if you go into Canvas to assignments, you'll notice there's a final exam assignment. So we're going to click on that assignment. You can also access this through modules. So when you click on the final exam assignment, it will bring you to the assignment page that has a link to a Word document right here. So I want to open that Word document for you. And you'll notice there are two parts in this assignment. So when I open the Word document that has the assignment, you'll notice there are two parts to this assignment. Part one. This final exam is a revision assignment. So you're going to be revising your first essay. Remember the This I Believe essay from the very beginning of the semester? You're going to be revising that and cutting it down to 350 to 500 words, which is a significant revision. And will be challenging because you're going to have to take a lot out. What experienced writers do is they make choices about what needs to be included and what doesn't need to be included and how to say it and how to structure sentences. And so this is an exercise that allows you to start thinking like a more experienced writer, where you're starting to make choices about what goes in your paper and what doesn't. So there are a lot of ways to approach this revision, this cutting process. And you'll probably need to do a combination of all of them. One thing is, if you don't have a copy of your This I Believe essay on your computer, you can access it through Canvas. So go back to that original essay 1, and you can access your paper there. And what the process for doing this will be, first, to read the paper. And just read through it, see what you think of it. And then begin reading it with an eye for what does not need to be there. What that means is you may cut sections. For instance, if you included two examples, but one would be sufficient, then you might cut one of those two examples. So cutting sections is going to be one thing to consider. Another thing to consider is how to maybe condense sections. So maybe you gave a long explanation, but that explanation could be half as long and still effective. So you can condense. Another thing you can do is, and this would not be sufficient alone, but as a last stage, is trying to think about how to say things more concisely. So for instance, if you said, I worked hard due to the fact that I wanted to succeed, you could say, I worked hard because I wanted to succeed. So you've cut 4 words out of there. That's going to be the last layer of cutting. You can also take out clutter words, and clutter words are things like just and very. It was a very long day. You could say it was a long day, and you've said exactly the same thing. I just wanted to do a good job. You could say I wanted to do a good job. And you've accomplished the same thing without all the words that we really don't need. So any word that does not need to be there can come out. And that's another way of cleaning up your writing, and writing in a more sophisticated way is to take out all of the clutter. So lots of layers that you need to go through as you cut this paper down to 350 to 500 words. I'll be happy to help you if you need the help. But this is going to be a way for you to make, and what you'll find is a lot of times if you're more concise, the paper will be better. But it still needs to be clear. So if you take out sections, make sure you go back and make sure that it still flows, or do you need to add in a transition? So taking things out may require you to put some different things back in. So it still needs to make sense. It still needs enough information for the reader to understand it, and it still needs to flow smoothly. So don't just delete and say, I'm done. You need to, once you think you've got it deleted down to the right length, then you need to go back and read it and make sure that it still flows and it's still clear. So that's part one. We got the part one here. Then you scroll down to part two. This is going to be new writing. And this is a short, 200 to 300 words, short reflective essay. In this reflective essay, I want you to reflect on the process of thinking about belief. So over this semester, we wrote a paper on one of your core values. We wrote a paper on making moral choices, and we wrote a paper on identity which was the critical response. So we've done a lot of thinking about belief and core values. I want you to reflect on the process of doing that. One of the things that helps us to learn is to reflect on what we've learned. If you can't reflect on it, you haven't learned it. So I want you just to reflect on the experience of doing this, thinking this way, and what you've taken away from it. Okay, then the last thing on this assignment sheet, you'll notice at the bottom is both of these parts, part one and part two, need to be rolled into the same document so you can upload them all together on Canvas. So that's the assignment. I'll be happy to help you. I've posted my office hours again for this week. I'll be happy to help you if you need it. Due May 7th at 2:20 in the afternoon. This is a final exam. It cannot be turned in late. So this one has to be turned. Anything that comes, let me say it this way. The assignment will only be available until 2:20 and then it disappears. So you have to turn this in on time because it is a final exam. Okay? All righty. Let me know if you have questions.